Welcome back to Haven't Seen It. We're starting back up our Alfred Hitchcock week monthly series with Rear Window.
Haven't Seen It with Tim Sestito and Tommy Tevenay. Hello, everybody. Welcome on in. Thank you all so much for listening today. This is a podcast where one of us is watching a movie for the very first time. And today, that is Tommy watching Hitchcock's Rear Window, one of the few Alfred Hitchcock movies that I've ever seen before we started doing our monthly segment. I think the goal is by 2030 to see every single Alfred Hitchcock movie ever directed.
Exactly. Like this is just eventually just going to become an Alfred Hitchcock podcast. So far, I think every movie we cover is the first time I've seen it. You've never seen Psycho, so that is on our list eventually. So
there's a certain month that I think Psycho will play well into. I also do just want to bury the lead here. I have been smoking 5 packs of cigarettes a day for the past 17 million years, and that's why my voice sounds so terrible today. It just caught up with me today out of the blue. It's definitely not just some virus going around. It's because I smoke 5 packs of cigarettes a day. It's an expensive habit, Tommy. Don't do it.
It doesn't help at the time of recording. There's crazy wildfires from Canada coming down in the Northeast where I'm at. So my allergies are acting up too. So I'm gonna try and mute all my sneezes I can this recording.
Yeah, I saw that. That's pretty wild. All the smoke coming in. I saw a picture of Yankee Stadium with the game going on, and it looked like the Born of the Apocalypse, like the cinematographer's dream, if we're gonna be honest.
It's a great fucking imagery. I mean, I'm seeing The Cure in a couple of weeks. I've been listening to them a ton, and today was a great day for me. Just dive into The Cure's discography, just pure goth energy right now. This guy out there.
So Tommy, it hurts. So it's been a couple of weeks. We had Memorial Day off, and then last week was just we had recording issue or timing issues. So it's been a couple of weeks, Tommy. I'd love to hear a couple of the things that you've seen. I think let's save the full conversation for Across the Spider-Verse. We both saw that. But let's just give me a couple rapid fire things that you went and saw and did.
All right. So past few times I can list off what I've seen. I watched 30 Days a Night. That movie was kind of mediocre vampire movie. I watched The Machine, the Bert Kreischer movie, which I thought Bert Kreischer was actually pretty funny. I mean, it wasn't an amazing movie or anything, but it delivered what I expected, which was just a couple of funny laughs. He's a great one of my favorite podcasters out there, Bert Kreischer, and I think he delivered what you expected, just a decent, funny comedy. So we also I watched the Kiefer Sutherland Jeff Bridges remake movie from the 90s called The Vanishing, which was just a very bizarre and odd movie. I only watched that because Bill Simmons recommended it on the Rewatchables podcast. So I was like, oh, let me check it out. And it was like, this is pure 90s trash. What the fuck am I watching here?
And that's why Bill Simmons loves it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I get.
One of the movies I went back in theaters and I saw it, but we're going to cover that when we cover another movie in that franchise later this month. But another movie that I did go see in theaters, I saw it. It was not by my choice, but I did see The Little Mermaid, the 2023 live action remake of The Little Mermaid.
So what was your first reaction? Yay or nay?
It was a nay going in. It was a nay going out. It was better than I thought it was going to be. Like if I went in blind, I would have given it a half a star out of 5.
Yeah.
I ended up giving it 1 out of 5.
Well, when's the last time you saw the OG Little Mermaid? Because it's been since I was a kid.
Since I was a kid, but like the runtime of that movie is the original is 86 minutes, and this one was 2 hours and 15 minutes long.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a bloated mess. The CGI does not look good. It looked better than I thought it was going to be honest. But and Melissa McCarthy had some fun in there. That was pretty much the only highlight for me. There was that horrible Aquafina rap that was going viral on Twitter. It was even worse in the movie.
I didn't even know she's in the movie.
She plays the bird character. Super annoying. I have a very big moral issue against these Disney remakes because they're just
Moral.
they're yes, no, because it's just there's no artistry to it. It is just here we are making this strictly to make cash, and they're investing $500 million into it, and they're not even reaping their full. They're not getting the full profit back on it. Like this is
I mean,
going to be a
there's
loss for
something.
Disney.
Yeah, there's some things that just like it doesn't make sense. I mean, like I could see the Lion King. The only defense I could see for the Lion King remake was as a technological experiment. That's the only way I could see it being defended. But that movie was just unnecessary. I watched it during quarantine, and that probably made my quarantine a little bit worse, to be honest. So, um, it's just like I don't know, it's just one of those things that just Disney just realized that there's a cash cow for this. I mean, Jungle Book did fucking amazing, and then they're like, all right, we can do Cinderella, we can do Peach Dragon, we can do fucking everything. Lion King, Beauty and the Beast. I mean,
Beauty and the
you know,
Beast was the big hit that they had from those live action remakes, and Jungle Book did really well. But I would even say Jungle Book is like B list in terms of their animated movies. Like it was a hit, but it's not. I wouldn't put it in like their mega titans of those animated, where like they weren't like
yeah.
the milking cash crowd like
I,
grabs like on in all the parks and stuff.
I mean, at least there's like some creativity in some of these ones where like Mulan isn't like a straight one for one remake.
Yeah,
Apparently,
but
from what
I
I
heard
heard.
them. I heard the Mulan one is horrendous.
Yeah, so I mean that's what you get, I guess. Apparently,
So yeah, do not go see the Little Mermaid live action remake. It is unless you know that you like the music in those movies, then you'll have a good time. But
yeah,
otherwise, you know if you want to see it, and you know if you don't.
yeah.
One of those
So
movies. But
of all the
another,
movies that all the movies I talked about, See the Machine, Burt Kreischer's good. So
I want to see The Machine. It's on my to watch list. But a movie I did see was Across the Spider-Verse. Tommy, I would love to get your thoughts because for me, Into the Spider-Verse is a top three superhero movie ever
um
made.
can't give a slight spoiler, I guess, of like
Yeah,
the end.
Oh, spoiler
yeah.
alert.
The whole thing's been. It's kind of a
I
hard movie not to
th-
spoil.
this is the only thing I could say that's like slight spoiler is that the fact that this movie had like a total cliffhanger and to be continued just like fucking gave me so much blue balls right there where I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I remember like I saw this at a packed theaters and like I was sitting right next to some kids and like I remember the kids like vocally said out loud like what like come on like seriously. I don't know. So I mean, that was kind of just a total blue ball moment right there. But I mean, this movie, I mean, like they really ramped up the animation style. Like they racked up from like what the Into the Spider-Verse was, and they really just made this like such a artistry of just like different animation styles, different just like how Gwen Stacy's world looks like, Spider Gwen's world looks like watercolor paintings and stuff like that. Overall, the cameos were really fun. I mean, this was just a great continuation for Into the Spider-Verse. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was up to par of the original. I still think the original is better, far and away.
Yeah, it's a more streamlined story in the original.
It's a concise story, and like it didn't have that moment of like the what's up danger moment from the original when like
Mhm.
Miles finally believes in himself, and like the movie just builds up to that moment the entire way.
Yeah,
This doesn't really have that, but like the mashing of like 150 different art styles into one animated movie is really impressive. Another fun story, I like that they dove deeper into Gwen Stacy. Like she's co-leading this movie.
yeah,
It's not just Miles's story. It's both of their stories. It is kind of like to be determined how this movie is because it's going to end up being a 5 hour mega movie.
yeah. Essentially, this is a part one. I mean, I honestly forgot that going in because I feel like I read that like before. I was like, oh, this is gonna be part one of Spider Verse forever. And then once like a continuation thing, I was like, oh yeah, shit, this is a part one.
Yeah, I will give the movie's cliffhanger credit for being like I was sitting there like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, and then it
But
just
so the
to be
discourse,
continued. Yeah,
yeah,
and I was like I was ready to. I figured it. I knew that the whole thing wasn't going to end there because I was like getting like this feels like it's about the runtime, and then but and like I'm very curious how they're going to open it because like it would be a lot after building your entire movie up to that moment to then just start your third movie right at that moment. Usually movies that end on cliffhangers, they like bring it
Yeah.
to a close, and so it'll be interesting to see how they bridge that together, and
I,
especially
I
if they're kind of one like if they wrote a much larger screenplay and split it into two, how they're like how that'll read together in one.
what's been interesting is how many people have been reacting like online to discourse of like the cliffhanger, essentially, of just people being like, oh, this is awful. I mean, like me for myself, I did feel a little bit of blue balls because like fuck, like I would have loved to see just the end of this movie because like I could have just stayed in this world for a while, which is testament to the movie. But overall, I mean, like you think Empire Strikes Back did this back in the day, and it's a very similar cliffhanger. It's not that much far off, you know.
It's
So
way further off, because Empire Strikes Back, it ends on like an emotional high, right? Like they resolve the conflict of that movie, but leave it open to your imagination.
well,
And then
there's still lingering threads of like where's Han
yes,
Solo and
yeah,
shit like that.
yes, but it was like resolved neatly in a bow that this ended like a Saturday morning cartoon, getting you to tune in for next week, where
Yeah.
Empire didn't do that. Like people were making that comparison, and I was like, these are not two in the same. They are like one ended, made you go, what's going to happen to Han Solo? What's going to happen to X? What's going to happen to Y? This one is like, we are in the middle of action here. What is going to happen?
Well, that's why I'm curious where the third movie's gonna end up, because just like at that point, I almost feel like there's only like 20 or 30 minutes left of the story to tell. So we'll see. We'll see. We're trying to keep it as spoiler free as possible, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm curious that if like, so I read that it might be just as long as Across the Spider-Verse, which was 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is long for an animated movie. I think it's the
I didn't
longest
feel it
ever.
though. I
I
didn't
didn't
feel
feel
it.
it's not a complaint about length. It's where he said
Yeah.
like it felt like there's 20 to 30 minutes left. Um, but I guess there is, and I guess I'll just play this again.
Oh, spoiler alert.
There is this thing about the Miles timeline and the spider that it came from.
Yeah, that whole
Like,
thing.
I think that's where like the first hour is going to be before he ends up back in his original dimension. Um, that's all I'll say for spoilers. If you haven't seen Across the Spider-Verse, go see it. If you haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse, 100% go see that. Both terrific movies. And speaking of terrific movies, we watched another one this week with Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window.
What goes on behind closed doors when you think no one is watching?
Tell me everything you saw.
James Stewart and Grace Kelly in a portrait of dangerous voyeurism. Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, Sunday, October 30th at 8:30 p.m. Part of TCM's Alfred Hitchcock Week. Completely commercial free on Turner Classic Movies. Just try and look away. Turn off the lights.
Yeah, so there was no TV spot for a movie released in 1954, believe it or
Well,
not. So
they
I had to
actually
find some Turner Classic Movie.
that made it feel like it made it feel like some like erotic thriller, like oh, some like crazy voyeurism going on right here, and just apparently that was like one of the trivia's when I was looking up some trivia for this, that like the original trailers for this movie is just lost, and the only one they have is like Blu-ray trailer or trailer from like 1990 or something like that. So, and the TCM shit too.
Yeah, I was like looking it up. I mean, in terms of an erotic thriller, I mean, you have James Stewart and Grace Kelly.
This is as erotic as a movie in the 50s could get.
And I mean, Grace Kelly is like throwing herself at James Stewart, and he wants nothing to do with it. He is not interested at all. It is very remarkable.
Mm.
It shows a man's
It
self-control.
was just yeah, seriously, the fact that he's just like, oh, come on. She's like, just literally be like, oh, like I'll stay the night. I mean, like the way that I always think that the code, like the authority code or what the fuck it was called from back then, was a lot stricter than it was. Because like the fact that they were able to get away with this in Rear Window kind of shocked me, because I feel like the code would have been like, oh, like you can't have a woman like stay at the house in the same bed of the guy she's not married to. I feel like it would have been some bullshit they would have tried to throw back then.
I feel like this is towards the code at this point was more anti-communist than like where a woman sat on the bed. That's like Louis B. Mayer like in 30s Hollywood.
Mm.
But I could be
But yeah,
totally wrong as well. But that
yeah.
feels in 1954 there was that little thing called the Red Scare going on in the United States. So any communist messaging in our movies would not have been released, even in the slightest. But Tommy, I would love to know your initial thoughts of Rear Window.
I think overall this is a movie that like is kind of suffers in some aspects of like this is the template for a lot of movies. You know what I mean? In a way, because like we've seen this type of scenario a lot now at this point, and this movie I think is really good. And I can appreciate it definitely from a historical concept. And I did like this movie. I did enjoy it, but I do feel like it's been one of those things that I've seen more modern takes on this, and I've been thinking like, I don't know. Sometimes it's the tricky thing I fall into when like watching a very older movie from like the time where it's just like, yes, I can appreciate the historically context, but there's some things in this movie that haven't aged well, or haven't played as well as it could, in a more modern sensibility. So it's that weird tricky line where like, yes, this movie's fucking amazing.
Okay, so what movies remind you of this?
Well, first off, I think the biggest one is the Shia LaBeouf movie Disturbia, which was essentially just like a rip off of this. Do you remember that movie?
I remember it coming out. I didn't see it.
Yeah. So it's essentially just the same thing. It's partially inspired by that. There's a movie that came out last year that I think was one of my favorite movies of last year in general, called Watcher, which was a very similar situation where a woman notices that someone from across the apartment complex of her is watching her from that window or something. So there's a movie called The Voyeurs that came out in 2019. This is just pretty much a template movie of just like great okay, like someone's noticing something suspicious about their neighbors. There's Fright Night in the 80s, which reminds me of this a little bit too. And that's not all to say that all those movies are better, but it's just that I've seen this kind of thing shaken out a lot, and the ending of this movie I think is what makes this movie amazing, especially just the amount of suspense that he has. Alfred Hitchcock for the most part decided to do this diegetically, which sometimes I think works really well for this movie, and other times I think brings it down a little bit. My main complaint, if any, about this movie is the score, or lack of score rather, kind of hurts it in some ways. I feel like,
but I feel like the lack of score is part of putting you in the apartment.
Right?
Yeah, like the music is only filled from the sound is from what's around the window. It's not just some score to try to keep the audience entertained. It's like, okay, I'm putting you in Dobbin's shoes. I'm putting you in his wheelchair.
I think that his
perspective.
Yeah, I think that in general it sometimes works, but it especially works, especially in the ending when like you have the lack of sound, where it's just the stark nature of just this hearing the footsteps come up to the door and there's the killer, there's the murderer, and like, what is he gonna do? How is he gonna it really is suspenseful, and it still really plays really well. But on the flip side, there's some parts in this movie where like maybe 10 minutes before, when he's watching across the way of Grace Kelly in the apartment right there and noticing everything that's happening, and then just the music you hear in the background, while it is diegetic, isn't engaging whatsoever, and just kind of just makes it seem a little bit unengaging, a little bit takes you out of the movement, I feel like.
It didn't do that for me, just because I was so entrenched into the story. So if you haven't seen Rear Window, James Stewart plays a photographer named L.B. Jeffries, who has a broken leg, and his girlfriend, Lisa Fremont, played by Grace Kelly, comes to visit him, and he basically spends his time staring out his window and notices that one of his neighbors might have killed his wife, and he does all the investigating he possibly can from his window. So that's the premise of the movie, and I what's crazy is how many times it's the notion of, did he kill his wife? Did Thorwald kill his wife was like dismissed. We had who was it, Doyle, the NYPD detective who came in and did the investigation, being like, "No, that didn't happen." It made me laugh when Grace Kelly was like, "Well, he was taking out all of her jewelry. Why would a woman leave without jewelry? You know, it's a women initiative." The detective's like, "Yeah, Toots, that's great, but a woman's initiative, that means nothing." Like, just
I
completely
literally
dismissing that lad made me laugh.
the second I saw that line, I was like, "Holy fucking shit!" Talk about things that hasn't aged well. That was amazing. It was like, "Holy shit!" Like, shut up, Rod.
Talk about things that would not be put in a movie today.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
I'm
that's
what?
cute. That's cute, hun, but the men are talking.
Yeah, but the men are talking. Like, I've heard female intuition before, and it usually ends up being deadly. Just like, oh Jesus, well, guess we know what this guy's all about. What I do like though is that Grace Kelly very quickly catches on to what James Stewart's saying, and like, ends up believing like James Stewart, how like, she's immediately questioning him and being like, maybe this, or like all this, and then he just sees across the way, and how suspicious Raymond Burr is, and is just like, yeah, maybe he did something right here. It would have been annoying if this was one of those movies where everyone was questioning James Stewart. And I'm glad that we had some characters that end up believing him.
His housekeeper Stella also was like fully enthralled. She's like the town gossip. But for me, what makes this movie stand out? So I originally watched this movie during COVID. I felt like it was a great COVID movie.
Oh yeah.
And I still stand by that point where you're just trapped and isolated in one place. Just how over the course of a week or whatever it is, seeing lives and like seeing where the camera is being chosen for you to look at, and seeing who in the courtyard whose attention we're supposed to be paying to, it kind of helps build this suspense up of being like, okay, Thorwald is the suspicious one. He's the one that we're continually suspicious of. But we're watching like all these other people and getting an insight into their lives. And while it's like not essential for the plot of the movie, it just helps enrich the world of this courtyard of just the day-to-day lives of all these people. And for me, and like I haven't seen a ton of movies that do it quite like this, that's where I felt like this movie excelled where other movies don't in this regard, where you were like, oh, it's good, but it's just been done to death. And it's like, well, this was the first one, and it's probably still the best one.
It's still up there. I mean, like, the problem with like, a lot of the rip-offs or whatever is just it's not a fleshed out world. You don't really care about any of the other characters, and maybe it just gets annoying sometimes. These movies can definitely fall into a trap where it's just like eventually you're just like, all right, I just want to fucking know, is it a killer or not? Like, I just fucking fast forward, give me information. But this makes it just compelling or whatever, and it does make you question it. This is the best type of thing. Of a movie of like, is the person next to me a killer or not? They just make it engaging. Sometimes I love to see in these types of movies if like, if James Stewart all this time was convinced of Raymond Burr, and it turns out like, there's nothing wrong about him. He was just like, yeah, his wife was out of town or whatever. But like, how anticlimactic that would be.
Well, that's why they didn't do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, it was like, I think of Miss Lonely Heart, the bottom floor neighbor, who we see one night just hosting a dinner party by herself and then crying. Then her going out to a bar, coming back with a gentleman who then tries to force himself on her. She kicks him out. And then the next day, what looks like is an attempted suicide attempt. She hears the piano player of the neighbor across the courtyard and decides not to take a second lease out on life. And it's like, wow, that's like a poignant little story that has no bearing on the plot or the consequences, but it's just there. Like, it's just these are the everyday lives of these people. It's background. Yeah.
He likes to just Hitchcock's just liking to flesh out this world right here. I do just think the set of this movie is incredible. And to think about, this was shot entirely at Paramount Studios. Hitchcock was thinking originally of like, filming this in like some Greenwich Village neighborhood, or whatever. But then he decided instead to just like, have it straight on a set. Set designers Hal Pereira and Joseph McMillan and Johnson spent 6 weeks building the extremely detailed and complex set. It was apparently the largest of its kind at Paramount, probably at the time. And there's a drainage system for like, the rain sequences in this movie and stuff like that. And just how they just built a whole entire apartment complex. And you don't really know. So you don't think, oh, this is just on some shitty soundstage. It does feel like you're in New York City in a crazy way.
Not really. Have you ever looked out of New York City, apart brownstone, and looked into the courtyard? Maybe they looked like that in the 50s. They certainly do not look like that today.
Well, no, it didn't feel very fake. It felt like
No, it
didn't
feel it felt very lived in. That is true. I was just speaking from somebody that has lived in New York City for a number of years. I was like, where is this courtyard that I could find? This would be magical. But it's usually just like one person has a backyard patio set up and nobody else uses the space.
It's a very lived-in community right there. So I mean, very, very just lively community. There are events all the time, probably out there.
Yeah, and that's the heart of this movie is just how lived in the space is. Like another little through line is the newlywed couple that moved into the right to the left of Jeffries, and they move in and they're like getting romantic, and every time you see the guy coming to the window, he just looks more and more regretful of his marriage, and he already looks like he's over it, and it's been 5 days.
Yeah. Just the little details of this movie that just make it just a little better than your average shit. So just it's great.
You have the songwriter in the studio apartment that looked suspiciously like the friend's apartment window. And they where he was playing songs one night, and Hitchcock, that's where Hitchcock made his cameo in this movie, was there in that apartment. I don't know if you caught that, Tommy.
Missed that little one.
Yeah, it's where Hitchcock makes his cameo, and then he comes back one night, and he comes home drunk and he just throws his music on the floor, and then the next day he's having a bigger party. And then you have Miss Torso, the ballerina, who always seems to be hosting gentlemen guests, but never actually inviting them to stay. And then at the end of the movie, her husband comes back from the war, right? And it was very interesting to see how they also gave resolution to these characters, like the couple that lived above the Thorwalds with the dog that Thorwald killed. At the end of the movie, they get a new dog, and I love like the little quirk that they would sleep outside on the fire escape. Like they would take their mattress out, and then the one night it rains, you see them panicking trying to get the mattress back inside, and it's just that's what sticks with me more than like the James Stewart being like, oh, Grace Kelly's too good, perfect for me. Like I can't marry a girl like that because I'll make her like miserable. And I'm like, that's the most backwards ass minded thought I've ever heard in my life. Like if you had Grace Kelly throwing herself at you, being like, can you marry me? You're just gonna say yes.
Yeah. What a through line. I mean, what do you think about James Stewart in general in this movie? I mean, like, I thought he was a great captivating performer. I mean, he's probably the only actor I could say that I've only seen his movies because of this podcast. Because I haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life. I haven't seen Vertigo, which we did last month. I haven't seen this all before we did the podcast. And each time he gives a different nuanced performance. I'm appreciating the cult of James Stewart now.
He's my favorite of the golden age, and I probably still haven't seen enough of James Stewart. Maybe we'll do some Capra as well, like a Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Throw that in there. Like it's interesting balancing these older classic movies and with modern stuff, and kind of seeing how they age and just like the performances. But somebody like James Stewart, I think he, for the most part, ages well. I'm sure if we did a whole deep dive into his catalog, that wouldn't always be the case, because if you make 100+ movies, not all of them are guaranteed to be winners. But
Yeah. It seems like Hitchcock really found like a great music right here. Because I mean, in between this and Vertigo, it just James Stewart just brings that paranoia in a great way, in an interesting way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I am a star. I'm a star, I'm a star, I'm a star. I am a big, bright, shining star.
All right, Tommy, who is the star of the movie?
I mean James Stewart, obviously. I mean, this movie's cat. This is the type of movie when, like, the character who's suspicious of like the neighbor or something like that, that actor is just a bummer or just not captivating at all. The movie just falls apart immediately, because it's just like, who cares? But he really just makes it captivating. He really makes you care for his character. He really gives you just the heart of this movie, and gives you an interesting through line throughout of, like, the romance thing of, like, you know and the broken leg thing is a great twist, or a great little angle on this too. It makes him a vulnerable character. So when Brandon Burr breaks into the apartment at the end of this movie, you're scared for him. You're really, in his shoes.
Yeah, I would also say James Stewart. The fact that he has to give the entire performance from a chair and hanging out of a window exclusively, uh, it speaks a lot to him, and we get to learn a lot about what motivates him as a photographer. That he's just a true adrenaline junkie, and as we said, like it feels unrealistic to be like, I wouldn't marry Grace Kelly because she deserves a better life than what I can offer her. But he's somebody that seems to be very in tune and has a foot down on what his life is and what he wants out of his life. And it's kind of refreshing to get that perspective from a character. So I'm gonna go James Stewart, but Grace Kelly also gave a fantastic performance. One of the iconic starlets of that era, probably in her most iconic performance.
Yeah, I mean, she was just a great captivating love interest, and just like, I was just the way she interacted with James Stewart, their chemistry just bounced off the screen right there. It was insane.
Yeah, and despite Hitchcock having his murmurs of being an asshole on set to his actors, he always seemed to be able to get the performers to just feel genuine and feel connected, and it's very nice to see that come to life in this movie.
Are you ready, comedy partner? Waka waka.
All right, Tommy, would Rear Window work as a Muppet adaptation?
I think you could get an angle on it, but this movie's not wacky enough. And like, Kermit would just be like, I think the angle would be that Kermit, his puppeteer is just his hand is broken or something like that. So that's why you can't move at all or something.
Well,
but
I feel like you could do a lot of wacky gags in the window. Like, I feel like that's where you would just make it a Muppet movie. It's just
yeah,
all the wacky
dishes are
stuff.
Coming out of the sink, or the Swedish chef is across the street.
Yeah, you could have everybody in that apartment complex, and I think you could do a lot with it.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to see. But yeah, I don't see Disney making a remake of a Hitchcock movie when they just released The Little Mermaid in theaters. So
yeah, there's a meme that I think I shared on our page today that was just like, Disney shouldn't be doing these remakes. They should just be doing Muppet remakes. I mean, like, you do Beauty and the Beast, and the Beast is, just a regular human, and everyone's like, oh, he's so hideous, and then he becomes a Muppet at the end. It's like, oh, that's great. Oh, you can just plug them into all the fairy tales. Just do that. I mean, we have Muppets and Wizard of Oz. Give us more shit like that, Disney. Come on, that's what we really want. We want the Muppets here, not all this other shit.
it's like they don't know. It's like they don't listen to our podcast. If they listened to our podcast, we'd be billionaires by now, basically.
Essentially.
So Tommy, review time. Give me your score out of 5.
So yeah, I mean, I did talk earlier about how this movie in some ways hasn't aged perfectly for me. I do think the score, or the lack of score, sometimes has taken me out. I feel like there's some moments in this movie that could have been more suspenseful. Looking at more of modern lens with better score. I mean, especially the moment where he's looking across the way and Raymond Burr notices him and says like, "Oh my god, he knows me" or something like that. And I just think the music in this kind of let me down that moment, and I felt like just took me out and just didn't really get me in the mindset I should have. So it does feel tricky from a modern perspective. I'm going to give this more of a 3.5 out of 5. I did like this, but I wasn't fully engaged. Historically wise, though, this movie, of course, is inspiration for so many different other thrillers. So it's a great, but I don't think that a lot of this is aged perfectly well for me.
So I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. I really like this movie a lot. I think it does keep suspense in there. I think when you compare it to something like Vertigo, though, you can kind of see the leaps and bounds difference in the suspense in that movie. I think limiting yourself just to a backyard strictly is impressive. I think it's impressive the staging that he's able to do to make the world. It never breaks your illusion from the world when things are going on. So for me, 4 out of 5. Highly recommend it. Another Hitchcock movie down. We got like 130 something else to go, but we'll get through them.
Yeah, we'll get through. What's the one with the fucking planes? Is it North by Northwest?
North by Northwest. We could do that one next month.
Yeah. So that'll be next one. Cary Grant, first Cary Grant movie I'm ever going to see. So there you go.
Oh, yeah. All right, Tommy. Any final thoughts?
Yeah. Did no one in this apartment complex ever hear of blinds?
No, not that was invented in 1955.
Back in the 50s, they're like, "Oh, blinds, windows can be open all the time. Who cares about privacy? Fuck it." That's what I was thinking throughout. I was like, "Come on, like, do you just not care?" If I was in one of those apartment complexes and like I just knew that like my neighbors could see me across the way, I would never have my fucking windows open whatsoever.
That would be for your neighbor's benefit too.
Yeah, probably, most likely. So anyway, so thank you so much for listening. You can follow us on social media at Seen It Pod. That's on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and leave us a 5-star review. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, really helps out the show. And next week we're going to be covering Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, a movie I have never seen. Somehow, I've seen Raiders a lot. I've seen King of the Crystal Skull, but I haven't seen Temple of Doom.
Temple of Doom is the biggest differentiator of the Indiana Jones. I haven't watched it in a couple of years, so I'm excited to dive back into it and all the stuff that'll make blue-haired people on Twitter get very, very upset that it was filmed in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Well, are you excited for Thou Destiny or no?
Yes and no. I know it's going to be a train wreck. Like I could just feel it in my bones that it's going to have the whole like, oh, Indiana Jones is just he was a man because that's what a man was. But now it's just time for, and it's like, guys, like you're talking about like a majority of people's favorite movie character, and you're going to ruin him in his last outage. Good job, guys. Yeah,
it has a 50% so far in Rotten Tomatoes. So I mean, we're gearing up for that. So, but Temple of Doom, can't wait. I've heard this movie is fucking bonkers, and Kali Ma heart getting ripped out. I can't wait to see that.
It's definitely bonkers. Thank you all so much for listening. I know this was a shorter one than normal, but as you can tell, my voice is ready to go. So we'll see you all next week.